So we had done the preliminary part of the introduction to the Saiva philosophy of Kashmir as a kind of a background or a kind of an understanding of the intellectual and spiritual context, the philosophical context for study of the foundational text called Siva Sutra. And we have clarified to ourselves that this is a theistic Advaita, it's non dualism with focus on Ishvara. And we studied about what is Jiva Tattva and what is Ishvara Tattva. Broadly, this is also non dualistic, excepting that unlike Advaita Vedanta, where God is kind of Nishkriya, Nirakara, Nirguna, here Ishvara has attributes and he can manifest using his powers and his whole Swatantra Sakti, his creativity, is all that. He can do anything he wants. So when he turns inward, when he turns outward, we have two sets of manifestations. You have that internal thing, which is very subtle, which is very shukshma, and then the Parashiva, the Paramashiva, is beyond everything else. So Ishvara, we have studied, and what is the relationship between Parameshwara and Sansara, the Jiva? That also we have already discussed it. Ishvara has Ichha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, and Kriya Sakti. And yada chidatma parameshwaraha swaswatyantrat abheda vyaptim nimajya bheda vyaptim avalambate tadanim evacha ayam malabritaha sansari bhavati. So when God sort of tries to manifest himself, and in the process of manifestation, he contracts his unimaginable, infinite, blissful knowledge, action, and will. Then he appears as somebody limited. It remains unlimited. God doesn't become limited, but he manifests as Jiva. Jiva, Brahmaiva Naparaha, the view of Sankaracharya and Kashmiri Saivism is more or less same. However, God, out of his own sweet will, sort of appears as Sansara. And why does he do it? It's for the purpose of Leela, that we'll look at it. So yesterday we were discussing about that Maya Sakti, which is called Swatyantriya, his autonomy. He is absolutely not constrained by anything that we discussed yesterday. There is a concept of Pancha Kanchuka, five vaneeds, and there is five veils, five coverings, through which his Sakti manifests or which it works. Now you see, if God has unlimited powers, how after manifestation there is a bit of contraction, because of which Ishvara becomes Jiva? That is what is explained here. That if you look at Bhagwan's Chit Sakti, he has five Saktis: Chit Sakti, Ananda Sakti, Ichha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, and Kriya Sakti. They are the five main Saktis he has. Now, what he's trying to explain here is that when you have that, Chit Sakti, what is it? Sarvavyapi. It's Prakasa Swarupa. It's all pervading. That Chit Sakti, which is Sarva Vyapaka, becomes Niyati. That Panchakanchuka, right? We are talking about the veils, five number of veils. So it becomes Niyati. Niyati means what? You have limited space. All pervading space takes the form of limited space. How can God manifest? Whenever you want to manifest anything, you have a poetic desire in you. You love your daughter, and your daughter is standing. When you want to express your love, understand that your love can never be fully expressed without limiting it. So, what this love means to you to express it to your daughter, you gift her something. Maybe you give her a pad, you give her a book, or you tell her a few sweet things, you motivate her, you gift her something. So, whenever we want to manifest anything, we have to understand. So, we have this problem of obsession of being perfect, but there is never anything called perfect manifestation. The moment you are going towards manifestation, the creative space, the creativity in you has to contract itself to take any form. That is what happens with God. So Sarva Vyapakatva, that Chit Sakti, becomes Niyati as one of the conjugas of Maya. Then what we had said, the Ananda Sakti, Nityatva, all the time, right? Ananda Sakti he has. That blissfulness. What it becomes? It is nitya. God is not happy today and he was unhappy yesterday and he'll be again unhappy tomorrow. Nothing of that sort. That is perennial blissfulness in the supreme divinity. That becomes Kala, limited time. Mahakala becomes Kala. Because then, the moment God tries to create anything, there is a beginning and an end. There is no beginning and end in the Supreme. There is no beginning, no end. We always sing Anadi Nidhanam Vishnu. In Vedanta also, there are so many verses in which in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan explains that Anadi Mat Param, I don't have any beginning as such. And I'm also permanent. I'm Anadi and Ananta. Then he's saying Kala. That means limited time. Then what? You have Ichha Sakti. What kind of Ichha Sakti God has? He has unlimited willpower. He can create anything, anytime. He can manifest in any manner. But the moment you are a very rich person, okay? Maybe let's imagine Elon Musk walks into a mall. So he has several. He's in the $100 billion club. Now, once he's in the mall, he's going to pick up something. He can buy the costliest thing. Maybe that will be $1 million. That will express his limited power. As a man, his capital was whatever it is, it's very limited. We are talking about a human being. Imagine God wants to manifest that unlimited Ichha Sakti, which is Punnatva. It is representative of his Punnatva. It becomes Raga, liking for something. He has unlimited Ichha Sakti willpower. Then he has a willpower to pick up a music system, a rich man, buy a dog maybe, buy a flower bouquet, maybe buy a car, buy anything. Maybe he can buy a jet, but whatever he buys is nothing compared to what he has. So it's always a limited expression of his net worth. Similarly, God has unlimited net worth and he has unlimited will. So it takes the form of raga, attachment. It's very limited attachment, remember. Without willpower, takes the form of attachment. Then you have Jnana Sakti. What is God aware of? He's aware of everything. Sarva Sakshitvat in Advaita Vedanta. He's a witness to everything. He's Sarva Sakshi. There is nothing which can happen anywhere in the universe without God's awareness. Why? He's everywhere, his consciousness, all pervading, and therefore, by the power of that consciousness, everything else takes the form of knowledge or understanding of awareness. That's what Advaita Vedanta says. Same thing he is saying that Sarvajnatva, God is Sarvajna. We are Kinchitgya, we know a little, he knows everything. But that takes the form of Vidya, specialized knowledge. Knowledge per se means nothing. So, knowledge, it takes the form, Bhagavan now, if you remember, the Vibhuti Yoga, he described all that, right? You remember the 10th chapter? How to meditate on you. When Arjuna has this question in his mind, Bhagavan says, meditate on me like this, meditate on me like that. In 12th chapter also, he tells how to meditate on the Saguna Sakara Ishvara because he saw the Vishwarupa. And he explained all that. Same way, he becomes Vidya, limited knowledge. Knowledge of a particular domain, of a field, or anything. Manifestation of the same divine ability to know everything. And here it takes a specific form, a limited form. Then you have Kriya Sakti, action. What can God do? Ichha is to will. Kriya, you can will to do anything, but you may not have powers to do anything. Kriya Sakti is the ability to translate his will into action based on his knowledge. That's again infinite in case of God, Paramashiva, but Shiva. But here it takes the form of Kala. What is Kala? What is this? So you have Dhanur Vidya, that is a Kala. Painting, art, music, science, anything you pick up, any Vidya, any Kala, any expertise. So that takes limited action. So the unlimited ability to act takes a specific form. People think he can do that, but he can do everything. But the moment he's doing something, people think he's an actor of that particular act. Okay, so this is Pancha Kanchuka. Kanchuka means it can be the upper garment of a lady, it can be a dress, it can be a cover. So here Kanchuka can also be the skin of a snake. Here Kanchuka means avarana. This is how Maya sort of starts playing his game, which is Swatantriya Sakati of Lord Shiva, his autonomy. And Shiva, he has this Panchakritya. Using these powers, what does he do? With this Panchakanchukatva that Maya Sakti he has, what does he do? Srishti, Sthiti, Sanghara, Nigraha, Anugraha. Srishti, and all these will come in detail as we move forward. So creation, then holding it, it survives. Sanghara, he terminates it. And Nigraha, he gets into himself. And Anugraha, he expands himself and he benefits people. So he sometimes punishes you, sometimes he rewards you, depending on how we relate to him. And then, because Ishwara himself becomes Jiva, you might ask me this question, okay, so you're saying this, okay, we accept it, but how does Ishwara as Jiva behave? What kind of powers he has? Ishwara has become Jiva. Ishwara has these five qualities, Srishti, Sthiti, Sanghara, Nigraha, Anugraha. Now he has become a Jiva. So in Vedanta also we have studied about Ishwara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti is based on our limited understanding, sometimes misunderstanding, with which we mentally imagine something and we give it a material shape. What does Ishvara do as Jiva? That is what happens in Advaita Vedanta. Here he is saying Abhasana, Sakti, Vimarshana, Bija, Avasthapana, Bilapana. All these will come in detail. These are just terminologies. We are sort of getting into the nomenclature of things. Okay. Now, you see, now it's very clear that that absolute God, that absolute Satchidananda Swarupa, Paramashiva, takes the Jiva form. So there is something called Anava Mala, atomic impurity or atomic insufficiency. In that atom, all the potency of God is hiding in him. But when he takes a human form, it's a manifestation in a form which is atomic, and it has all the constraints, limitations associated with that anu or that atom that we are. As they say, Kana Brahma. So whatever happens, God contracts his knowledge, his action, his will, and his ananda and his chit swarupa, and takes a limited form as a jiva, and therefore there is anava mala. So it becomes like a molecule or an atom. Therefore, there's a beautiful verse here. Vyapokihi shivaha swecha klipta sankocham sankocha mudranat vichitra falakarmogha basa tattat sarira bhak. The jivas, because you see, they also perhaps accept jivas are anadi. This is one simple tradition in the spiritual tradition of India that nothing started as such. They are always there. So, based on our karmas, our papa punyas, God will appear in different forms. He creates it. We'll have to go deeper into it to understand. Whereas in Advaita Vedanta, God doesn't do anything on his own. Everything is karma sapeksha. Whatever good karmas we have done in the past is going to manifest as our good luck. Whatever bad karmas we have done is going to manifest as our bad luck. That's what the Shastra tells. Any Shastra, Indian thing, whether it is Buddhism or is Hinduism, Advaita Vedanta or anything, here there is a special attention or importance given to the all-powerful Almighty God. And yet, he has the supreme power to do and undo anything. So it's all the more interest because you remember in the 18th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, when we were discussing, there is a question in Arjuna's mind, which is discussed by the commentators. If you are there everywhere and you are doing everything, what do I have to do? There cannot be a blade of grass moving without the will and affection and approval of God. What is our role? So what sadhana will I do? What study I will do? What kind of meditation I'll do? Because you are doing everything. If I meditate, you are doing it. I do bad karmas, you are doing it. So then Bhagwan smiles, and that verse, if you remember, Bhagwan says, look here, if you actually understand that, if you are really clear about it, then why don't you surrender yourself fully to me? Why are you bothered about anything? Are you really convinced that God is doing everything? Then turn to God. That is how the illusion of autonomy of human agency is kind of sacrificed, thrown away. We throw that away because that is a false illusion we have. By doing that voluntarily, we surrender to the will of the supreme will. It's the will of supreme power, supreme knowledge, supreme action. We surrender to the divinity, and in that process, we divinize ourselves. Once we bring that divinity into our lives and we divinize everything we do, everything becomes godly, everything becomes divine, everything becomes pure and innocent and beautiful. That is what he's mentioning, that there is nothing called jiva. Once we remove these illusion, layers of ignorance, then we can get closer to that Siva Tattva, which we are. But because of the illusion, same as Vedanta, but the sadhanas are different. That is why this whole Shiva Sutra, I tell you, is focused on spiritual sadhana. This is not about philosophy. We are giving this philosophy as an introduction. But the book, the sutras, is all about what the sadhaka should do to get closer to himself, have self-realization. So there is this beautiful sentence, Vigraho Vigrahi Chaiva Sarva Vigraha Vigrahi. Vigraho Vigrahi. Vigraha, any form you are taking. And who is the Vigrahi? Who is manifesting? The Supreme Lord. Sarva Vigraha Vigrahi. Any material form that you pick up, there is a Vigrahi who is manifesting, and he is the one who manifests all forms. There is no form which is not being manifest by him. That is what he's saying. It's very beautiful. Yasmat sarvamayo jivaha. And then, because what is our Swarupa then? So our Swabhava is we are Jiva, and we are constrained by the malas which we imbibe in ourselves as a result of Sankochana of that Vibhu Swarupa through Maya Sakti of God. So he has done Abharohana, he has descended down to a certain level, and then he has become human beings. If we realize this, then we can start ascending. That is the secret there. So there is a Abharohana and Pralaya and whatever, there is a Arohana. There is ascent and descent. Now, if we understand, we'll take the help of that divinity to ascend. And therefore, there is a beautiful saying. So there is no real difference between what is divine and what is human. The human element is because of an apparent, an illusory descent of the divine power into limited forms. Limited forms in the domain of knowledge, in action, in love, in will, everywhere. Time. Therefore, he's saying that so far we are concerned. What is the difference again? He's explaining. Chitireva chetana padad avarudha chetya sankochini chittam. That is that particular sutra will come in Shiva Sutra. Chitireva chetana padad avarudha. So that Chaitanya Eva, that supreme consciousness, it kind of descends from that higher pedestal where it is too invisible, infinitely unlimited attributes, all hidden, nothing visible, and then it becomes visible and therefore becomes limited. And then we are in a tiny part of this whole visible creation. And then he's saying, what is our Swarupa? Maya Pramata. And that is Chittamaya. And that consciousness itself becomes Maya Pramata. Now, that supreme consciousness becomes a knower. The moment you are a knower, you are a knower of something. The moment you say the word Pramata, Prama means knowledge, valid knowledge. Prama, and there is Pramata, knower. You are doing a research paper, you have some conclusions. And how do you reach there? There is Pramana, process of knowing. So this is an illusory division which is created. Same as Vedanta, where they say that the Pramata, Pramana, and Prama or Prameya. Prama is valid knowledge, Prameya is the object of knowledge. These are divisions which get dissolved once we are absolutely established in that supreme consciousness, as per Advaita Vedanta. Meditating on the Brahman, Brahmakara Vritti, that Tattvamasi, the Jivatva is that Jivatma and Paramatma. Jiva Visheshana, adjective is gone. Paramatma, the Parama, adjective is gone. Both are basically domains of consciousness, like pot, sky, and sky. It's sky. It's pure consciousness manifest as Jiva, the human consciousness, and divine consciousness. That is the training they do. Same here in different sets of words. Jiva Ishvayo, Shiva Jivayor Avheda eva uktaha etat tattva parigyanam eva muktihi. There, what Aham Brahmasmi, by meditating all that, that is our liberation. Now you are not touched by anything which is happening around you. Same thing he's saying in a different way, because here the Brahman is replaced with the word Shiva. Shiva is not Shiva Lingam. Shiva is not Rudra in Kashmiri Saivism. Shiva is that pure Chiti, that pure consciousness. That's why once I was going to a Shiva temple in Jammu and I found there were thousands of Shiva Lingams all around, including the wall and the houses and everything. I said, what is this game? Shiva Lingam should be in a corner, and you have the Shiva Lingams, thousands of them all around. And the Pandit said, where Shiva is not there, can you show me a place where he's in there? So that is that non-dual consciousness. That is the impact of the Kashmiri Saivism, which is also kind of, it has percolated into some form of their ritual practices. Common people do not understand it, but there is a philosophy behind that material envelope in which Shiva consciousness is appearing in a Shiva temple. So there are millions of Shiva lingams all around. I saw that. It's very interesting in a particular temple in Jammu. So how do you bhokta eva bhogya bhavena sada sarvatra saksitaha. God is bhokta and he himself has become jiva sansara bhogya. So he himself is seeing himself in an image, in a mirror. And where is that mirror? That is his own consciousness. That is what we mentioned yesterday. That Ma Durga is God's reflective mood in which he is becoming self-aware. Shakti is the consciousness in which Supreme Consciousness is becoming aware of itself. It's beautiful. Just think about it. It's a beautiful imagination. Therefore, God, Shiva cannot do anything without the benefit of this Shakti, because if you don't know what you are, if you fall into a state of amnesia, you will not have any agency. So what can you do if you forget everything? So Lord Shiva becomes aware of himself as Shiva only when there is Shakti. And then he can do anything. That Maya Shakti with all that. So now you see, we have studied in Vedanta and also Sankhya, there are these 25 tattvas. How does they explain in Sankhya? 25 tattvas. So they will say in the ultimate level, they will have Purusha, then they'll have Prakriti, Mula Vidya or Prakriti, Mula Prakriti. Then out of Mula Prakriti, there is this grandmother. That is the Mula Prakriti. She doesn't have a mother. She's the grandmother who doesn't have a mother. And that grandmother has 7 daughters. What are these 7 daughters? These 7 daughters are Pancha Tanmatras, Savada, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha. Tanmatras means not physically available to the eyes or the ears or anything. They are in super subtle form, Tanamatras. And then you have Buddhi, that is intelligence, and Ahankara is agency, that is Hiranyagarbha. Once that happens, then these 7 sisters together produce a bunch of children, the 16 Vikaras. What are these Vikaras? You have Mana, then Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, and Pancha Bhuta. That is how the whole story starts. 25 elements. Now, in Kashmiri Saivism, they talk about not 25 tattvas, but they talk about 36 tattvas. Okay, just see the difference. In Sankhya, we have studied that there are 25 tattvas. Here, there are 36 tattvas. What are they? Now, the Paramashiva is beyond all this. He is not in a tattva form. He's tattva-tita. That you have to remember this. Paramashiva is same as Brahman in Advaita Vedanta. He's tattva-tita. He doesn't have any name and form. He's beyond all that. He's pure Chit Shakti. So Paramashiva is everything else. Beyond everything else. Tattva-tita. So below him, you have Shiva Tattva and a Shakti Tattva. There are 2 tattvas, Shiva and a Shakti. So here you have agency, right? You have some name given. He's omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all that. And Shakti, his awareness and all that. And then This is Avheda. There's a complete non-dual state, Shiva and Shakti. In a non-dual state, you have Shiva and Shakti. Then you have Bheda Bheda, dualistic non-duality. There is difference and there is non-difference. And what is that? That is Sadasiva Tattva, Ishvara Tattva, Sadavidya, Suddhavidya. These three. All this we'll discuss as we move forward. What is Sadasiva? What is Ishvara? What is Sadasiva Tattva? Sadasiva, to imagine in a picture, if you have Parvati sitting on his thighs and he's meditating, very peaceful, very happy. Ishvara Tattva, Sadavidya, Suddhavidya, all that. Then you have dualistic state or Bheda, the level of duality, complete non-duality, you can say specified non-duality, or you have Vishishtadvaita, qualified non-duality, whatever you call it, or dualistic non-duality, or unity with some difference, whatever words you use. Then you have the level or the state of differences, Bheda. And what are the things you see? To start with, there is Maya, which is Swatantriya Sakti of God, of Shiva. Maya, and the moment you talk about Maya, what you have follows immediately Panchakanchuka, five veils of Maya that we studied. What are the five veils? We just did it. Kala, Vidya, Raga, Kala, Niyati. Kala is Sarva. That Sarva Kartikvatva becomes Kala. And that Sarvagyatva becomes Vidya, Purnatva, Ananda Swara, Ichha Sakti becomes Raga. His Ananda Sakti, which is Nitya, becomes Kala. Chit Sakti becomes Niyati. Kriya Sakti becomes Kala. Jnana Sakti becomes Vidya. All that. Panchakanchukas. So that is five. So you had Abhedastara, Shiva and Sakti two. Sadasiva, Ishvara, Sadavidya, that is three. So we have five there. Okay. And then what do you have? Maya, six. Then Panchakanchuga, together 11 now. Okay. Then Purusha and a Prakriti. Very similar to Bhagavad Gita, where you have Ketra, Ketra, Purusha, Prakriti now. Shiva Sakti they have put at the top as Purusha, Prakriti, because at the human level now we are talking. So you have Purusha and Prakriti. At the top, you have Shiva Sakti, in the dualized state, the differentiated state, same Shiva Sakti principle we are talking about is Purusha Tattva and Prakriti Tattva at the Jiva level. And then, so that is what? 11 plus 2, 13. And then you have the 23 items of Sankhya. What are the 23 items? You leave Purusha Prakriti at the top, you have these Pancha Tanamatras, Buddhi, Ahankara, then Manas, then Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, and Pancha Bhuta. Same here. All total how much? How many? 36. So these are 36 tattvas. Paramashiva is not part of these 36. Those who include Paramashiva in the tattvas, they will say they are total of 37 tattvas. Okay? That is how it is. And the details will happen now. Now, in Advaita Vedanta, how creation happens, how the manifestation happens. You remember we had used a few technical terms. One was called Satkaryavada, to refute the Buddhistic notion that the whole world has manifested out of nothing. That's Sunyavada they have. Satkarya means something has to be there for something else to come out. If milk is there, you can have curd, you can have butter, you can have anything. Without milk, you cannot have butter. Milk itself becomes butter. So it was hiding in milk, they would say, Sankhyas. Vedanta kindly, more or less, Karya Karanavada. Karana manifests as Karya. The cause manifests as effect. But we don't talk about real change in Brahman in Advaita Vedanta. So what do we say? That, it's an illusory thing. It's a manifestation. It's a projection. Like a stick, if you insert in water and you look at the stick, it looks as if he has bent because of refraction. Similarly, samsara appears inverted, right? That is the same thing they are saying here, that Vedanta, Nishkriya, Satchidananda Swarupa, even during creation. But where do you get this creation? No, Brahman has not undergone any change. Brahman has not undergone any change, and yet we have so many names and forms and creation. This is explained as Vivarta Parinama Vada. Vivarta means it is a projection because of which creation appears real. But if you remember, Ramanujacharya, when we had a discussion on him, he talks about Brahma Parinamavada. So, he's kind of very much in sympathy with the Kashmiri Saivism view. And in fact, he had traveled there. It's quite possible that he had taken that idea. Of course, their followers don't admit it, but there's a striking similarity, even though Kashmiri Saivism is far more complicated. And he was a Vaishnava, so he was not super happy with this idea of Saivism. Maybe he gave it a twist. But you have this Brahma Parinamavada, God with his unlimited magical willpower manifests this whole sansara. He talks about aprithatva siddhi, if you remember that term. We are not different, but we appear as different. We are Anuswarupa. Bhagavan, we are just a tiny part of that infinite divine self of God. So what he is saying, Chideva Bhagavati, that Chiti, Bhagavati, that is the Bhagavan's Maya Shakti, Chideva Bhagavati, Swachha Swatantra Rupa, and it's pure. Why? Here Maya Shakti, you have said, right? Sattva Rupa, Suddha Sattva Rupa, Malina Sattva Rupa is Jiva, Avidya Upahita Chaitanya is Jiva, Suddha Maya Upahita Chaitanya is Ishvara. Same here is saying, Swachha, Swachha, Swachha Swatantra Rupa is transparent, it's pure, and it's autonomous. Tat tad ananta jagat atmana spurati. And then based on our Papa Punyas, it manifests in different names and forms. Ityavat paramartho ayam karya karana bhavaha. And that is how this whole world has manifested out of that karana. That is what he's saying. So this chit, that pure consciousness itself, becomes pramata, pramana, and pramaya. Knower, process of knowing, and known. Dualism has come into game. This is the Leela of God. We are knowing, there is an object of knowledge, there is a process of knowing. This duality is created by the Swatantra Maya Sakti of God. That is what he's saying. And he's saying, so where from it came? Prakasa Rupa Chitireva. Then he's saying, Prakasa Rupa Chitireva Hetu Nattaso Kaschit. There is nothing other than this chit which has become samsara. That means there is nothing like God made man out of clay, nothing of that sort. There is no clay. He creates it out of himself. We are his image in a mirror. That mirror is own awareness. We are not outside of it. And then, is it real creation or it's unreal creation? This is the most interesting thing where, you have these modern day physicists, super minds in the field of physics are contemplating and coming very close to what we are talking about today. So the insights of Kashmiri Saivism or Vedanta or Buddhism are kind of fascinating for a lot of modern physicists, contemporary thinkers in the scientific domain. So what he says, creation and destruction. If you ask this question, why Srishti happens, if you ask, no, don't ask that question. God just wants. This is just a delusional representation in Vedanta. This is a Leela. This is his own game that is manifesting itself. Creation and destruction is not real. What is it? So you have two schools of thought in Kashmiri Saivism. One is Swatantra Veda. God can create of his own ways anything he wants. Close to Ramanujacharya, and he was fascinated by that strand of interpretation. Then there is other one that everything that you see as real is actually not real fundamentally. Why? Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. Everything is divine consciousness. If you go to that level, that subtlest level, none of these things are actually real. They're just appearing as if they are real. Depends on from where you're looking at it. So you take a picture of a city from moon, what does it appear? It appears green. It doesn't appear much different from what is next to it. Appears same brown spot or anything. Then when you zoom in, then you see new things appearing. The more and more you zoom in, the more and more new things you see. You go to the human being, you go further in, have a bigger lens, then what do you see actually? Tell me. You will have the nose, you go further, then you will have molecular level, you go, and then what? Atomic level, and then subatomic level, then you have charged particles, again, nothing is visible. It's magical, isn't it? even from scientific point of view. That's what he's saying. It's ajatavada. Nothing was fundamentally ever created. These are all whatever was written in Advaita Vedanta, Gaudapadacharya and Manduke Karika, more or less the same. They're saying Jagataha Prakasekatmyena Avasthanam Uktam. It's a manifestation, and that manifestation appears as if it's a real world. There's nothing called real in the real sense. There is real in phenomenal sense, which Advaita Vedanta says Vyavaharika Sansara, phenomenal reality. Per se, nothing exists, except nothing except Paramashiva here. And then why, if you see that absolute reality is just one Paramashiva, pure consciousness, why it has taken so many forms? Whatever was asked by the Vedantists or the students of Vedanta will also be asked by students of this school of thought. Then he's saying, look here, these are essentially different forms that it manifests in. So they accept some duality, some difference. So you have grahya, grahaka bhava, a receiver, bhogya, and bhokta bhava. Grahya is bhogya, grahaka is that bhokta, grahya, gaha, grahaka. So there is some subject object distinction. Ultimately, subject object distinction is dismissed. But at the phenomenal level, you have subject object duality. So here, knower and known, or object of knowledge. What is object of knowledge? Is prameya. What is the knower, the subject? It's called pramata. So as per them, why these are mentioned here, how is it relevant for our spiritual sadhana? What they are saying is you will become sarvagyan through spiritual sadhana, right? So there are levels of awareness. The seven pramatas are mentioned here so that we understand that there are seven levels of pramatahood. You will become a knower at different levels. At the ultimate level, as a knower, you almost know everything. Of course, you are Jiva Brahmivana Paraha. So you will become like Paramashiva when you're completely liberated. So you have lower levels where the eye, the mind is more focused on the external aspects, and slowly it focuses on subtler and subtler realities, and ultimately it's able to connect to the subtlest of the realities, where it is no more different from what is being known. The knower ceases to be different from the known. That is the ultimate level. So when you are going in the sadhana krama, you have seven layers to cross. And what are these? It will be discussed later on. The one is pramata. What are these? Sakala pramata, knower of everything. Below that, pralaya kala pramata. See, in pralaya kala, when everything is destroyed, God still exists. But sakala pramata is no different from what is being known. So you have pralaya kala pramata, then creation, vijnana kala pramata, and then niche. So Maheshwara, there is mantra pramata, knower of the mantras. It will all come, these technical terms. Then there is a Maheshwara, Mantreshwara, and a Mantra Maheshwara below that, and then Shiva. At the lowest is Shiva. So you imagine that we are doing sadhana, we become Shiva, then Mantra Maheshwara, Mantreshwara, Mantra, Vijnana Kala, Pralaya Kala, and a Sakala Pramata, ultimate level. So these are different technical words. And then there is, you see, they are very complex syntheses of different schools of thought, by the way, Kashmiri Saivism. Most advanced and most complicated, with too many concepts, jargon, and tools of knowing and explaining reality, and also for sadhana. So it sometimes might overwhelm us when we are trying to grasp, you're trying to hold the bull by its horns, but it's too powerful, too complex to deal with. So similarly, they're saying vachya and vachaka. There's another diversion. What is when we are trying to know something, we're using language. That we are talking about the cognitive self, right? Cognitive agency and the object of cognition. Now, how does cognition take place? How do you think about anything? With the help of language. How do you express it? With the help of language. Therefore, there is a theory of saradhva, And what is this? Vachya Vachaka Sambandha. So Vachya is what you're talking about. Vachaka is the word. Vachya is the artha. Savada Savdartha. Language of philosophy and what is being discussed. Reality. Philosophy is dealing with reality. So he's saying Vachya Vachaka Sambandha. And what is this? Vachya, what you're talking about? Kala, Tattva, Bhuvana. So, and then Vachaka, Varnya, Pada, Mantra. Why are they mentioning all this? What is the interest we have in all this? See, Kashmiri Saivism sees everything as a domain of mystery. Have you ever asked yourself this O, A, E, E, everything, this 49 letters that you have or 50 alphabets you have, what is the meaning of it? For this Tantric school, every letter has a whole mysterious domain associated with. That is how we have Vija mantras. Like you have Omkara, Gaudapadacharya wrote about it. O, U, Mo. O represents the waking state. U, the dream state. Ma, O, U, Ma, the deep sleep state. And where is the absolute beyond that, that Ardhamatra? He's saying, well, that is the Turyavastha, the fourth state. It's beyond Jagrad, Swapna, and Sushupti, Pancho Koshatita, that is Atma, and that is the Turyavastha. And there's a whole lot of discussion. The Mandukya Karika by Gaudapadacharya. Profound philosophy. So there the letters are meditated on. Similarly, there are Upanishads also where the same Om is meditated on, other than Mandukya Upanishad. But here, or to cure everything has special meaning. Like, for example, Hari, that E is Maya Vija. Shiva, E is Maya Vija. I will discuss everything like Hring, Kring, Rang. So every mantra that we see, the Vija mantras, when we are doing Ucharanam, so for example, when we are propitiating Ma Saraswati, so we say Om Aing Saraswatyai Namaha. What is that Aing? What is that Vija? There is a whole lot of philosophy behind it. So these letters are not secular tools for conveying our ideas. This is super NLP. You know, you have heard about this neuro linguistic programming is to you become by virtue of the language you use and how you speak and how you think. But the whole language per se in the tantric paradigm in Kashmiri Saivism loaded with a lot of meaning, each letter, and then they meditate on them because you have to use mantras for your sadhana. Therefore, they have given a whole gamut of philosophy to make sense of each and every alphabet and how, depending on how you frame it with the akara, ikara, etc., the meaning changes. The power, the vibration that emanates changes. You know, one good example is that just imagine there is still water. Okay, now there is an aeroplane going. There is no connection whatsoever. You look at that water, when the aeroplane moves, there will be micro mini vibrations on the water surface. So the energy field, the vibrations are able to create changes in the material forms. Okay, now try to bring it to our lives. Why do we do mantra chanting? So these vibrations, these meditations, that subtle vibration of different mantras also bring in changes. That is the presumption in our brain waves, the way our mind functions. So that is how now they're saying that different mantras, if you listen to them, they create a certain set of vibrations in you. You listen to rock music, they create also a set of vibrations in you. Whatever we connect with creates certain deeper impressions in us, and that determines how we relate to anything outside in the next moment. So, because they have to give us certain path of sadhana, path of connecting with the divine, they also are giving us the whole science about language, about alphabets, and how to meditate on the divine using these alphabets silently or aloud. Therefore, they're talking about Vachya Vachaka Sambandha. And then this whole mystery about all this. But I will not get into these details because in course of time when we move, because every damn word, every alphabet has a lot of meaning in it. So Now, Paramashiva, he has this autonomy, willful autonomy. He's completely swachanda. And this swatantra. And this game, this whole creation is pancha krityatmaka krida. It's his game. You don't. So you can divide this whole gamut of Kashmiri insights into what is reality and what is divinity and how we need to do sadhana to connect with it to two schools of or two domains of arguments or philosophical vantage points. One is Swatantriyavada, very close to Ramanujacharya. The other one is Abhasavada, very close to Vedanta. Both are, in that sense, Kashmiri Saivism, if you ignore the finer details, not much different from Advaita Vedanta. The finer details, there are certain changes, certain differences. So therefore he's saying, Swarupa Chadana eva avarana muktihi. So Swarupa Achadana eva evang avarana muktihi. You know, Swarupa and Achadana, God's primeval form, supreme consciousness, and that is the state of liberation. And when he appears, manifests, he creates certain coverings, entrapments, veils. So this is avarana, that is mukti. When you're looking at the details, you're trapped. When you look at the universal, you're liberated. So the particular and the universal, graduating from the particular to the universal, graduating from the specific, loaded with name and form and qualities and attributes, and then identifying with them as yourself. That is what Vedanta says. More or less, they're saying the same thing. And here, God is a magician in Swatantriyavada. So this Maya Sakti, what also Vedanta uses, aghatana ghatana patiyasi. She's an expert in doing what cannot be done. Most mischievous. She's most mischievous. She can do anything which is difficult to do. You have some mischievous kids. She's the most mischievous, divine supreme mother. Kartum akartum evam anyatha kartum. And then it has apratibandhita parasakti. There is nothing which can actually have any limitation on the supreme capacity of Maya Sakti to take any form. Whatever Lord Shiva wants, it happens. And they are trying to explain that Swatantra Sakti. How do you make sense of it? How do you relate to it? They're saying, look here. There is a supreme, powerful emperor sitting in his palace. Vedanta also gives that example. And then all the people are doing all kinds of activities. Somebody are cleaning, some people are cooking, some people are gardening. They're doing everything. And he's enjoying. He is not doing anything, but he's enjoying everything. He's just watching. Same way, Tatha Prabhu Pramodatma Kridatyeva Tatha Tatha. The way the king enjoys this, watching all the people doing all kinds of fights. Some person shouts at somebody. It's like a grandma sitting and watching her grandchildren fight and play and have fun on a holiday, on a family get together. She's having supreme enjoyment, sitting in a garden. All children are playing and shouting, and she's like a great grandma. She's not angry or sad. Who is this girl? No, this is this granddaughter's little child. And who is that boy? This is this grandson's little baby. Oh, really? That's so interesting. She's reading some book, or she's just soaking in lovely afternoon sun. All the children are morning sun. The children are playing and fighting and quarreling and shouting. She's just enjoying it. She's not involved in anything. She's enjoying it. Everything is happening because they're actually doing, because it's her birthday. The grandchildren and children are all playing together. This is their gift to her. She's laughing and enjoying. She's in meditation. She's very old. Similarly, Tatha Prabhu Pramod Atma, he's just having fun, my dear. He's having fun. Kridatyeva Tatha Tatha. That is from Shiva Drishti. Beautiful book. That is philosophical. This is more sadhana. The other school of thought is Abhasavada. That Abhasanam, Isat Sankochana, Sankochena bhasanam prakasana. So, with a bit of contraction, that infinite energy and knowledge and will and happiness and bliss has manifested samsara with a mixture of happiness and sadness and conflict and union and whatever, whatnot. That is what is samsara, that is abhasa matra. So, contraction of that unlimited infinite consciousness of prakasha swarupa, that luminosity, that is abhasa. That means that purity appears as impure, appears as limited, appears as constrained. That is abhasa. Abhasa is not an appearance, it is a wrongful appearance. It's not the real appearance. It when, like, I think the best example they'll say is, when you look at your face in the mirror, do you see the exact face the way it is? No, you are looking at a face in which your right ear has become the left ear of the man you are seeing in the picture, in the mirror. Isn't so? So if you're washing your face, the other person is watching you, he'll be giggling at you because you are a right-handed person and you're sort of washing your face with the left hand. That's how it appears. You always look so funny from somebody, so your lips are twisted in a certain direction, it will appear as if they're twisted in the exact opposite direction. That is what happens to Lord Shiva when he manifests, when the Supreme Self manifests as Sansara. That is Avhasa. Now, we are slowly now coming towards Siva Sutras, and we'll get into it with a little more introduction to the text in the next class, and we'll enter into this. This is Shiva Sutra is sadhana focused, because bandha and mukti, how to go from the state of bondage because of a faulty understanding of what the supreme consciousness is, what is the Shiva Tattva is, we have to do sadhana. What is sadhana? Spiritual practice, exercises. So you have 3 chapters in it. That is called Prathama Unmesha, Ditya Unmesha, Tritiya Unmesha. Sambhovapaya, Shaktopaya, Anavopaya. You had a beautiful question by Nileji in the last class where it seems like that in Kashmiri Saivism, the way to supremacy or supreme consciousness is through Sakti or the Mother Divine. Yes, the second chapter is Saktopaya. Sambhovapaya, directly concentrating on Lord Shiva. Then you have Saktopaya, and then you have Anavopaya. Shiva, Sakti, and Anavopaya means at the level of the Jiva. And we'll get into the details. Now, sadhana means some kind of effort to liberate yourself. So we have to understand, if that is the case, what is bondage? And that will be the second sutra of this whole text. Jnanam bandhaha. Some people say Ajnanam bandha, they say Jnanam bandha. Chaitanya Mahatma, that is the first sutra. Jnanam bandhaha. Isn't it very interesting and confusing? The moment you know anything, that becomes bondage. We'll get into the details of each sutra, and there are commentaries on it. Remember, Siva Sutra is very intuitive. Some people say that it is Pandakarika, in which the details are mentioned and they're converted into a set of aphorisms by Vasugupta. And that is what is Shiva Sutra. Some people say this. Some people say no, Shiva Sutras were conveyed to Vasugupta by Lord Shiva himself. There is no human author here. So we'll get into that part of the story in the next class. So just understand that we have bondage because of mainly 3 regions. And what are these? Anabamala. Because we are Anuswarupa, we are constrained, we are limited, we are tiny specks of this divine creation. What are the limitations associated with this limitation? That is one cause of our bondage. In Bhagavad Gita, how does Bhagavan explain it to us? He mentioned in the 14th chapter that you have the Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika gunas, and that is how you are kind of trapped in the game of these 3 gunas. These 3 gunas are not in God. These 3 gunas affect human beings, similar to Anabamala, if you look at it. And then you have Mayamala, associated with That same as that Bhagavan mentioned in the Prakriti. And here Maya Mala is Pancha Kanchuka, that five veils of Maya which constrains you, associated with that. So they will mention about, because you have to do mantric sadhana and stuff like that to get rid of this Maya Mala. And then there is something Karma Mala, Karma Sambandhiya Mala, limitations associated with your karma, the way you are, the way you act. This is a difficulty that is very difficult to overcome. Karma Mala, or the karmic Mala, because you have that Kala Sharira, you have a limited body that you have with a few specific powers, some knowledge, some efficiency, and that is another domain. So, how do we overcome this? That is the sadhana in the Siva Sutras, and that is how we'll sort of bring this introductory discussion to an end, and we'll get into the text with another introduction, but not to Kashmiri Saivism, but an introduction to the Shiva Sutras in the next class, and we'll get into the mantras in the one after the next class. So, any questions? We have 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes. Anybody who has any questions or queries, we can discuss that. Anyone? Any questions? Okay, then we'll do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat
पूर्णात्
Purnamudachyate
पूर्णमुदच्यते
Purnasya
पूर्णस्य
Purnamadaya
पूर्णमादाय
Meva
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
Om
ॐ
Shanti
शान्ति शान्ति
Shanti
शान्तिः यो
Namaha
नमः
Hari.
हरि ओम तत्सत्
So we'll meet again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
प्रणाम सर